Fantastic. And welcome everyone to this month's LinkedIn LoveIn with me, Judy Parsons. And this month, I'm absolutely delighted to have Fiona Robertson with me. Fiona is from Get Ahead VA, which is an outsourced business support services company. So welcome, Fiona.
Hi.
Sorry, I'm super excited to have Fiona here because I personally think that there's a lot that we can do from learning about how other people are using LinkedIn and what are other business owners doing on LinkedIn, what's making the difference for their business. And so Fiona has been using LinkedIn. I've known Fiona now since she started her business back in 2018. And I know that she's a big advocate for LinkedIn. I know that she finds it an extremely useful platform. So what I want to know is find out, why is that and what is Fiona doing with that? So prior to being her own boss, Fiona actually worked for Morrison's. She was employed working for Morrison's, and she wanted to find a way of spending more time with her children and not miss them growing up. So she's actually, started her business from scratch back in 2018. She's grown it over the last 4 years, and she's grown it so not only to where she is now, she covers Leeds and Wakefield, but she's also now expanding into Harrogate and York, and she's won awards along the way. So it's been an extremely successful 4 years, and I'm sure it's been lots of hard work for Fiona as well at the same time. So I'm going to stop chatting and waffling now. I'll bring Fiona on, and I think what I want to find out is what's the challenges were from moving from being employed to your own boss. But just before you start, Fiona, if anybody's got any questions, please do put them in the chat box, and we'll get around to answering them as we go on. So Fiona, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, and nice to be here, and nice to see everybody. Thank you for asking me on here, Judy. So yeah, so start 2018, started the Get Ahead business, and I think one of the reasons that I chose Get Ahead was actually because I recognised I probably would have a challenge moving from being employed to being self-employed, having never run a business. So I chose Get Ahead because it's a franchise, and with that I get a team of people to support me, which I really, really appreciate. And so I'm not on business in my own, but I am a boss in my own right, making my own decisions. I think the other challenges that I probably recognise now looking back is that I should have set myself some targets earlier than I did. And I should probably have looked for more professional advice earlier than I did as well. So, working with coaches and training providers to enhance my skill set so that I can be the best business owner that I can be.
That's really interesting, isn't it? Because I think I started in business, it's over 10 years ago now. And it is a real shift, isn't it? Going from employed to being self-employed or being your own boss. Suddenly you've got everything to do, and you do need to get those experts in there. So when you said set targets, do you mean in terms of your sales targets or how many clients you wanted and things like that?
Yeah, so building it up. Yeah, building it up. So, in terms of setting revenue targets, what does that look like in terms of customers and where those customers are going to come from, and also targets on activity that I undertake. So in terms of how much networking I do, how many one-to-ones I have, how much time I spend on LinkedIn, tracking statistics and things like that, so I can see where results are happening as well. So that's a really important part of my business now. It wasn't necessarily when I started, but I would recommend that for anybody to understand what it is you want to achieve, what it is you want to achieve, and measure how you're successful. Where is it coming from and how successful are you?
Do you know, I think that's a really, really good thing to say, isn't it? Because, marketing, we're talking about business development today. We're talking about how do you use LinkedIn to generate leads and opportunities for your business. And you need to be tracking that, because it is, you know, I know LinkedIn is a time suck and I talk about that a lot, but it's about seeing it as a platform and being committed to it. And you do have to measure your time, because you've got to see that return on investment. Even though you're not paying for LinkedIn, there's still a return on investment. That's amazing. Lovely. Okay. So so you recognize, so you've been building your business for the last 4 years. What strategies have you used, and how do you go out and get new clients? You know, you started in 2018 with no clients. You're now, you know, award winning and expanding. How did you do it? How did you get new clients?
Yeah, so I think I'd always been given the support from Rebecca around how important networking was, and she really encouraged us all to focus a lot on networking and building relationships with local people. And I think that's where LinkedIn, I see, sort of fits in nicely, because it's my online networking platform, and that's where I build relationships with people online. I also do some PR activity. So we've recently launched in York and Harrogate, as you said. So we've done some PR around just getting the Get Ahead brand known in York and Harrogate. And we recently exhibited at the Brand Yorkshire event in Harrogate as well. Again, just getting people's awareness that, you know, we're there to help businesses, and that, yeah, we're just there if you need us.
Yeah. Do you know, I love that, because I know we're talking about LinkedIn here, but, you know, there's only one person I know, and they don't really, but there's only one person I know that does LinkedIn in isolation. LinkedIn is a part of other activities that we do on to help generate business. So obviously for me, you know, a large proportion of my business comes from LinkedIn, but equally, I think it's important to go networking. And I love, Fiona, what you said about LinkedIn being the closest, you know, being your online networking, because that's what I'd say to people. You can't go far wrong with LinkedIn if you treat it like another networking group. And, you know, we had a great question from somebody, which we'll go into in a bit later on, but, you know, who's said about, you know, not being too salesy on LinkedIn. Well, we wouldn't be salesy face-to-face networking, would we? We know people who are salesy face-to-face networking, and we would just go. So I'm just going to mute people, if you just bear with me. Just make sure I don't mute Fiona though. Fiona, you might need to unmute yourself. Sorry about that. I just had to mute everyone. Okay, lovely. So that's really interesting. So you have what I call different routes to market. So you've got your LinkedIn, you've got your networking, and you've got things like PR and exhibiting. But in terms of those strategies, which is the most important for you? If you could only do one of those, that could be a bit harsh. What would you choose?
I think networking is probably my most important one, but I think, like I said, LinkedIn really enhances the networking that I do, and I think it really sits at the middle of every other activity that we undertake at Get Ahead. So, you know, whether that's sharing, you know, about the fact that I am exhibiting at Brand Yorkshire, and, you know, it'd be great for people to come and see me, and raising awareness so that people can come and meet me face to face, or whether it's just kind of, you know, reaching out there to people with useful content on LinkedIn that, you know, we can talk about at networking. It's all kind of part of what we do.
Yeah, that was a bit of a horrible question, really, because it's all integrated, isn't it? Really, you know, we will go network, and we talk about it on LinkedIn, and we'll go connect with people that we've networked with and things like that. And this event, all these LinkedIn Love-ins that I promote on LinkedIn. But I also talk about them when I go networking. So, but I guess that goes to show realistically that if you just focus on LinkedIn and networking as your main routes to market, then even if you don't do the other stuff that you're doing, like the events and things like that, you know, you've got two really good platforms there for growing your business going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're definitely the strongest routes to market, definitely.
Yeah. So go on, let's dig a bit deeper into what actually do you do on LinkedIn then to help you, you know, generate opportunities.
Yeah, of course. So typically daily, I will go on LinkedIn 2 to 3 times during a day for sort of 10 to 15 minutes, depending on what my schedule looks like that day. And the 3 things that I always do is I will always look at my notifications, look at my messages on LinkedIn. That's probably the first thing that I will do. Look at who's viewed my profile on LinkedIn and message people that have, just to say, hi, you know, can I help you? And then engaging on other people's content. So I don't post myself every day. I might post once or twice a week, but I do go on there every day to engage with other people's content and just support people that I know from my networks as well.
I think that's important as well, actually, because you're not on the paid version of LinkedIn, are you? You're on the free version.
No.
Yeah.
Free, yeah.
So actually, because Adrian's just asked that question. So Adrian, no, it's all the free version. And I'm a big believer that you can use LinkedIn on the free version completely. So you don't actually need to pay for it. But it's really interesting. I like how you said that you go and look at who's viewed your profile. So on the free version of LinkedIn, you'll see the last 5 people that come to your profile. So the fact that you look at it 2 or 3 times a day, you probably catch most people who are coming to your profile.
Yeah, and I think if there was a post that I'd either done or that somebody had involved me in where I was conscious that maybe more people would be viewing my profile, I would recognise that and look at that a little bit more frequently for that particular day if there was a lot of interest and activity happening.
I love that because, for me, who's viewed your profile is a bit of a vanity statistic in a way. But what it actually shows you is how many people are coming to your profile and actually who is coming to your profile. And that's really important because it means that, we can see are the right people coming to our profile, and we can then also follow up with them as well. So in terms of, you look at who's coming to your profile, what do you do then with them?
So just typically send a message, just say, hi, seen that you've reached out and looked at my profile, and just have a general conversation. And that can vary depending on who the person is, whether I already know that person, whether it's somebody completely new. So yeah, but it's just about having a conversation with somebody, and that's what I would do if I was face-to-face networking, is just have a conversation that is a natural conversation. It's not scripted or anything forced that I'm saying. It's just a hi, how are you? Or have you been doing any face-to-face networking recently? Just opening up a conversation with somebody.
I love that because I think one of the biggest challenges that I speak to people have is actually, what do I say on LinkedIn? They are quite not everybody, but one of the sort of challenges is have that fear of starting those conversations. And again, I suppose for you, this is where it's an online networking, because if you think of it, you wouldn't go in and say, do you need any business support services? You go in and you'd look to help first. Do you have any example scripts, or is it all kind of done on the hoof depending on who it is?
It is completely on who it is, and what existing relationship I've got with that person. So
I guess that's a really good question, good point, isn't it, in terms of whether you actually know them a bit already or not. And I guess also if they've engaged on your post, or they've engaged on something where you've been mentioned and they come and look at your profile, that's what gives you the armory, doesn't it, and the information to go in and have a conversation with someone. Oh, I see. Thank you for taking the time to view my profile. I see you also liked so and so's post. And then do you invite them to connect if you're not connected with them?
Yes, I would do. So if somebody's liked put one of my posts, I would go on and look at their profile. And if it was the right kind of fit for my network, I would invite them to connect and thank them for engaging on my content as well. I just think it's polite and just a good way of building relationships up with people.
Do you know what? We do talk about building relationships, and I know Caroline Howard's on the call today, who runs the business network. And you know, I know if we, sorry, Caroline, we won't bring you on, but I know that Caroline would say to us that networking is all about building relationships, and it's a term that's bandied around, isn't it? I think quite a lot. You know, what do we mean by building relationships? And you know, how can we do that on LinkedIn? And for me, it is genuinely going and helping people, engaging on their content. It's about popping up and being seen and visible, and people just starting to recognize your name, and by sharing valuable information. So in terms of what you specifically do a day, you're on 2 or 3 times a day, which is really interesting, and great. You look at your notifications, you look at who's viewed your profile. You then mentioned that another key activity was engaging on other people's content. So do you spend quite a bit of your time doing that?
Yeah, and so typically scroll through and sort of look at whose posts are on there and just comment, you know, read an article if they've, you know, been kind enough to share a useful article, and comment and feedback to say thank you on that. If it's just something that resonates or appeals to me, then just comment on something. And I do like to support people in my sort of close network as well, so I'd always actively look for their content so that I can help support those people.
Fantastic. I mean, you know, for me, engaging is a key activity on LinkedIn. For me, it's more important than posting, which is quite interesting, because you said you actually only post, what, twice a week? And I would totally agree with that, you know, because for me, it's about having that two-way conversation and not just throwing stuff out at people. So I love how you find engaging such an important activity on LinkedIn. Yeah. So I think, so that's really interesting. So from those activities that you do on 3 times a day, which is fantastic, and I think it is important to say that you fit that around your working day, what results has that generated for you? What do you find is happening?
Yeah, so we've had results from sort of different elements of what we've done on LinkedIn. So we've got results where clients have found us directly from viewing our profile, and that can be possibly from directly seeing me comment on somebody else's post and then looking at my profile, or doing a search and finding me for the services that we provide to our clients. And then we've also had where we get a recommendation request, so there's a post goes out and somebody asks for a request, can somebody recommend, and people in my network will tag me in those posts, and I'll follow up with those people to see if they want a conversation.
Do you know what? There's a couple of things that you said that I think that's really important. One is that you follow up with those people. Again, any networking experts will say it's all in the follow-up, and it's the same with LinkedIn. But also that your network will tag you in people who are looking for support with the services that you offer. And that comes back down to having the right network. Who are you connected to? Are you connected to the right people? And Tracy here has asked a question about, you know, how do you connect with right people, or how do you connect with the right people on LinkedIn, or do you connect to anyone? And I think that perfectly demonstrates why you don't connect with everyone on LinkedIn, and you only connect with the people who fit your client profile or that you know. So Fiona, you obviously work in quite a location around Leeds, Wakefield, Harrogate and York, so you're in that kind of Western North Yorkshire, so it's kind of location based, so you can build a quite targeted network with business owners in that area. And so for me, I think it's really important. So you would never go and connect with somebody unless you know them in London, or, you know, even America, you know, do you know what I mean? You will probably know who you want to connect with, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's really important who you have as your network. And you know, we are wanting to help local businesses, so it's typically local people that I'm looking to connect with on LinkedIn.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've just seen I've got some other questions on here. Oh, so when that asks, how can you contact people who look at your profile? Did you want to answer that question, or?
You can answer that one.
Oh, should I answer that question? That's fine. So what we're talking about here and there is when you go to the homepage of LinkedIn, on the left-hand side, you can see who's viewed your profile, and it'll come up, and you can click on that and it'll give you a number of how many times you've been viewed in the last 90 days. And you'll see on the free version the last 5 people. So you can just click on their profile, have a look at them, and then you can invite them to connect if you're not connected with them. Or if you are already connected with them, there should be the option to message them on LinkedIn. So that's what we mean about contacting people who've looked at our profile. And also, I mean, if you are a first degree connection, you should be able to see their email addresses anyway, if you wanted to take that conversation off LinkedIn. And I think that's the key, is that we're always looking to get conversations off LinkedIn, ideally, but we start in the conversation on LinkedIn, and we're warming people up so that they are ready to have a conversation with us. So just that, so you'll get, so I mean, it's quite interesting because that's not difficult. What you're telling me that you do on a daily basis, Fiona, you look at who's viewed your profile, you do some engagement, and you send, messages to people that you are in communication with, and you post twice a week. It's not onerous in a lot of ways. And that typically will bring you sufficient, I call that inbound inquiry. So people coming to you and saying, can I work with you?
Yeah, that's the main focus is on the inbound, getting people to have those conversations with us from LinkedIn. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so because there is another way of actually generating opportunities on LinkedIn, which is is actually going out and directly messaging. It's a bit more, it's called outreach. So we can go in and message people. We always want to get people into our network so that we can go and message them. But is that something you've ever done, where you actually will go and send, like, you could do like, not a mail shot as such, but you may have a message that you may send to 20 people or something? Do you ever
it's not that? Something that I've done, no. I think just looking at people in my network and who they're connected to, and looking at who's engaging on their posts and reaching out that way to people, or reaching out to people that I've heard somebody else mention that they're connected with them. I tend to find that it's just building, because then I know it's a trusted network already, because it's already been validated by somebody in my network because they're connected with them. So that's typically how I would do the outreach, but it would just be, again, just to kind of like say, oh, can see you connected to so-and-so, or just to have that conversation with somebody, and just to naturally grow my network, but with trusted people within the wider network of my existing network, if that makes sense.
Yes. So it's people that you're more likely to know anyway, or who are more likely to know you. Yeah, for sure. Because that's quite interesting. Because Phil here says, you say close network. Is that a list of your contacts, VIPs? I think when we're talking about a close network, it means that it's a very targeted network. We're building there's a fine line, I think, between quality and quantity. We need to be connected on LinkedIn for sure if you want it to work for you, but at the same time, it's got to be a quality network. And I think that's what you mean by that close network, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. There was a lady who'd commented on one of your posts last week, and I'd heard somebody else mention this lady's name as well. And I thought, I'm just going to reach out and see if she'd like to connect with me. And we've just had a conversation online and agreed to have a coffee. And it's as simple as that. It's just I knew that person from 2 different sources, and therefore, and she actually put in the message, she said, oh, the fact that you want to connect with me, I guess that means you've heard good things about me. And it's true. So I already knew that she was worth adding to my network.
And do you know what, Fiona? That's exactly how it works. Absolutely. I love that example, because that's how so we were asked a question by Tor, who said about, how do we, and I just pick up the question that she asked, how can we be non-salesy and still generate inquiries and opportunities on LinkedIn? And that, to me, demonstrates that perfectly. We don't go in and push ourselves on them.
No, and I think it's just sharing useful content as well, sharing helpful information to people. I think our free resources that we share, if we do an infographic, they're always well received, because it's just about wanting to help people. I know, Judy, you said you remembered the one that we did around grants that were available for companies. So we just researched what grants were available earlier this year, and we just shared that out to people, because for me it is about helping other businesses in the local area.
Do you know what, exactly? And it stood that out, because that stood out for me in particular, because I wouldn't even know where to, for me, that's quite a difficult thing to do. I know that sounds daft, but some people like research and some people don't. And I'm not a researcher, but to have that done for me makes it easy. And that's what you're doing. You're demonstrating how you can make things easy for people. And now one of the things I would say that, people do worry about being salesy on LinkedIn. And I'll come back to that, treat LinkedIn like another networking group. If you wouldn't do it face-to-face, don't do it on LinkedIn. And think about the messages that you put out there, these little soft touch messages. And you can still go in and ask people for conversations. Would you like to have a Zoom? It'd be great to meet you, especially when you're locally based. That works really well, I think. So have we got any more questions at all in here? Martin, I did see Martin have his hand up, but I don't know if he's still got a question on there. If you have, Martin, you can.
Yeah, it wasn't really a question. It was about outreach, and I've just moved, we're just moving to Harrogate, joining a local networking group, and they were looking for solicitors to join the group. So I just reached out and linked into some local solicitors with a message that I was moving back and looking to link in with them. And in fact, probably I think most of them responded, which was great. And once we get moved, I'll be able to hopefully have a coffee with them.
Yeah, do you know, and that's a perfect example. Absolutely. But I think sometimes people say, when they think outreach, and what I mean by outreach is people who are sending those sales messages. And that's not what we mean by that's what some people do. There's an automated systems where people will just throw out lots of invites and messages to see what sticks. But, Martin's example is a great one in terms of, it's these soft touch messages that really works. And things like that. So I appreciate we're 2 minutes to the hour. Well, it is to the hour, and a couple of people have had to go. So we've got any more questions at all for us? I don't think so. So Fiona, before we finish, you mentioned about free things and offers and things like that. And I agree with you, because I think one thing you have to remember is LinkedIn, and we don't own LinkedIn. So we do want to try and get people off LinkedIn and into a conversation. And one of the best ways to do that is have some kind of free offer. Now, you mentioned that you have a quiz that you use. Could you tell me a little bit more about what that quiz is? And I'll just drop it into the chat box actually as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we created a quiz around helping businesses to get to that next level, and just asking a few simple questions so that it really hones people into what aspect of their business they may need to put some more focus on. And it provides a report at the end with a really useful spider diagram, which I think most people seem to like. And it just really gives you then what are the 3 priority areas for you to focus on in your business. If people then want to have a conversation with us about how we might be able to help them with some of those areas, then that's fantastic. But it's just a free resource for people to use and look at how they want to use it.
Fantastic. I think that's a great idea. I really do. So it's now on 1 o'clock. If anybody's got any more questions for us, please do pop it in there. Or if you get any more questions that come to you after it, I will be sending the recording out. What I'm going to do is also get a transcription of this as well. I'm going to get out and summarize Fiona's key points for everybody in terms of what she's doing to use LinkedIn to help build her business. And I'm sure we'll be seeing more and more success from you, Fiona, as time goes on.
Thanks, Judy, and thank you for having me on. It's been really great.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. And thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Bye for now.